The rain had stopped an hour ago, but the streets still carried the memory of it. You're sitting in your car outside a grocery store, hands locked around the steering wheel so tightly your knuckles ache. Your chest is hot, your jaw is tight, and somewhere inside you, a conversation keeps replaying itself like a courtroom trial with no verdict. Maybe it was something small, a disrespectful tone, a message left unread, a look, a sentence spoken too casually by someone who had no idea how deeply it would land inside you. And now your mind won't let it go, because anger's never just anger. It's humiliation wearing armor. It's pain trying not to look weak. It's the nervous system screaming, I matter too. But here's the strange part no one tells you. The people who disturb your peace the most rarely know they're doing it. While you're sitting there rehearsing arguments in your head, they're ordering coffee, laughing, moving on with their lives, completely unaware that your inner world has become a battlefield because of a single moment. And suddenly you realize something terrifying. Your emotional state is being controlled by people who aren't even thinking about you. That realization changes something, because maybe the goal was never to become emotionless. Maybe the real power is becoming untouchable, not cold, not numb, not indifferent, just free. And freedom begins in a place most people never look. Keynote 1. Most anger is not caused by the moment you think it is. That's the first truth. You think you're angry because someone interrupted you, disrespected you, ignored you, betrayed you. But if you slow the moment down, really slow it down, you'll notice something almost unsettling. The emotion arrives before the logic does. Before your conscious mind explains why you're upset, your body has already reacted. Your shoulders tense, your breathing changes, your stomach tightens, your face hardens. The body decides first. The mind creates the story afterward, and that changes everything. Because if anger begins beneath awareness, then most people spend their entire lives arguing with shadows they never actually see. Chase Hughes often talks about how human beings are prediction machines. Your brain is not designed to seek truth. It's designed to protect patterns, to keep you safe from emotional danger by recognizing familiar threats. That means when someone disrespects you today, your nervous system may not even be reacting to them. It may be reacting to everyone who ever made you feel invisible. That's why small things create massive reactions. A delayed text message doesn't just feel like a delayed text. It feels like abandonment. A dismissive comment doesn't just feel rude. It feels like proof that your voice has no value. Someone interrupting you in conversation doesn't just feel annoying. It awakens every memory of not being heard. And the terrifying part is, you usually don't realize this is happening. You think you're reacting to the present moment, but your nervous system is defending old wounds with military precision. That's why some people can hear criticism and remain calm while others feel emotionally shattered by a single sentence. The event is not the trigger. The meaning is, and meanings are built from memory. There's a moment that happens right before anger fully takes over. It's subtle, almost invisible. Most people miss it their entire lives. It's the moment your mind asks, what does this mean about me? That question controls nearly every emotional reaction you have. If someone ignores your opinion and your brain translates it as, I'm unimportant, anger appears. If someone sets a boundary and your brain translates it as, I'm being rejected, anger appears. If someone succeeds and your brain translates it as, I'm falling behind, resentment appears. The external world is rarely the true source of suffering. Interpretation is. And once you understand that, you stop trying to control people. You start studying yourself. That's where emotional freedom begins. Not in becoming stronger than everyone else, but in becoming aware of what owns you internally. Because the person who angers you reveals your unhealed attachments with terrifying accuracy. That's why emotionally reactive people are easy to manipulate. Compliment them, and they rise. Ignore them, and they collapse. Challenge them, and they explode. Their nervous system is externally operated. Most people think confidence means dominating the room. Real confidence is quieter than that. It's when someone tries to provoke you, and nothing inside you rushes to defend itself. Because you no longer need strangers to confirm your worth. That's rare. Very rare. Most people are walking around carrying invisible hooks inside them. Hooks formed from childhood, heartbreak, betrayal, humiliation, loneliness, and the world keeps accidentally catching those hooks. One sentence can ruin their entire day because it touches an identity they secretly fear might be true. But the moment you become conscious of your hooks, people lose their power over you. Not because you suppress emotion, but because you finally understand where it comes from. And understanding creates distance. Distance creates choice, and choice is the beginning of peace. But there's another layer to this most people never discover, because some anger isn't actually about pain. Some anger exists because deep down, being angry gives you something your mind became addicted to long ago. Some people don't hold on to anger because they hate it. They hold on to it because somewhere along the way, anger became useful. That's the part nobody wants to admit, because anger feels powerful, not peaceful, not wise. Powerful. It gives structure to confusion. It gives heat to emptiness. It turns helplessness into movement. For a few brief moments, it protects you from the far more terrifying emotions hiding underneath it: shame, grief, fear, insignificance. Anger is often the bodyguard emotion. It stands at the front door so the deeper wounds never have to speak. That's why some people would rather stay furious for years than feel vulnerable for 10 seconds. You see it everywhere. The man who constantly criticizes everyone around him because admitting he feels inadequate would destroy the identity he built to survive. The woman who says she's done caring, but secretly checks her phone every night hoping someone finally chooses her. The friend who turns every disagreement into a war because conflict feels safer than honesty. Underneath chronic anger is usually an emotional contract the person made with themselves long ago. If I stay guarded, nobody can hurt me again. If I stay defensive, nobody can control me. If I stay angry, I never have to feel weak. But the nervous system cannot tell the difference between protection and imprisonment. Eventually, the armor fuses to your skin, and that's when people stop experiencing life directly. They experience it through defense mechanisms. Every conversation becomes threat detection. Every disagreement becomes disrespect. Every silence becomes rejection. They are no longer relating to reality. They are relating to survival patterns. And survival patterns are exhausting. You can always recognize someone trapped inside them because they are emotionally tired all the time, even when nothing is happening. Their body never leaves combat mode. They replay conversations in the shower, invent arguments while driving, analyze text messages like coded intelligence operations, prepare defenses against attacks that haven't even happened yet. Their mind became a security system that never powers down, and eventually the body pays the price. Because resentment is not just psychological, it's physiological. The heart beats differently. The muscles tighten. Sleep becomes shallow. Even moments of peace feel suspicious. That's why some people cannot relax in healthy relationships. Chaos became familiar. Calm feels unsafe. Read that again carefully. For many people, peace does not feel natural. It feels unfamiliar. And the nervous system will often choose familiar suffering over unfamiliar peace. That's why emotionally reactive people unconsciously recreate conflict. Not because they enjoy pain, but because the body became addicted to emotional intensity. The brain starts confusing activation with aliveness. You see this in relationships constantly. A person finally meets someone patient, grounded, emotionally mature, and instead of feeling relief, they feel boredom. Not because love is missing, because drama is missing. The nervous system says, "Where's the tension? Where's the uncertainty? Where's the emotional chase?" And without realizing it, they sabotage the very thing they prayed for. This is why emotional mastery is not simply learning to stay calm. That's surface level advice. Real mastery is retraining the nervous system to stop worshiping emotional chaos as proof of meaning. And that requires something difficult: stillness. Not external stillness, internal stillness. The ability to sit inside discomfort without immediately turning it into reaction. That is one of the rarest skills on earth. Because when someone insults you, your body wants movement, defense, attack, withdrawal, explanation, anything except silence. But silence reveals things reaction cannot. It reveals whether the insult is true. It reveals whether your ego is wounded. It reveals whether your identity depends on being perceived a certain way. Most people react quickly because reaction protects the self-image before awareness can question it. Stillness interrupts that process. And in that interruption, something extraordinary happens. You begin seeing people differently. You realize most disrespect is unconscious. Most cruelty is woundedness. Most arrogance is insecurity wearing expensive clothing. The person trying hardest to dominate the room is often terrified of feeling invisible. The person speaking with the most certainty is often defending against private confusion. The person who hurts others casually has usually become emotionally numb to their own pain. Suddenly, human behavior stops feeling personal. You begin seeing patterns instead of enemies. And this changes the emotional chemistry of your entire life. Because once you stop interpreting every negative behavior as an attack on your worth, the world becomes quieter. Not softer, quieter. But there's one final trap hidden inside all of this, a dangerous one. Because some people hear these ideas and misunderstand them completely. They think emotional mastery means becoming passive, silent, detached from everything. It doesn't. In fact, the strongest people in the world are often the ones who feel the deepest emotions. The difference is, their emotions no longer control the direction of their behavior. And that distinction changes everything. There's a moment that happens in every conflict before words are spoken, a microscopic pause. So fast most people never notice it. It's the space between feeling something and becoming it. That space determines the quality of your entire life, because emotions are not commands. They are signals. But most people were never taught the difference. So the second anger appears, they merge with it completely. I am angry. I am disrespected. I am betrayed. And once identity fuses with emotion, clarity disappears. Now the nervous system is driving. Now the primitive brain takes control. And the primitive brain only knows three things: attack, escape, protect status. That's why intelligent people can suddenly become reckless in emotional moments. Why loving people can say cruel things they regret. Why calm people can transform into strangers under pressure. The emotional brain is ancient. It evolved for survival in dangerous environments, not for navigating modern relationships, social media, text messages, and wounded egos. Your nervous system still reacts to social rejection as if exclusion from the tribe means death, which means one careless comment can unconsciously feel life-threatening to the brain. And that's why awareness is power. Because the moment you notice, my body is reacting right now, you create separation between consciousness and emotion. That separation is everything. Without it, you become possessed by temporary states. With it, you become the observer. And observers are difficult to manipulate. Think about the people who control your emotions most easily. They usually know your patterns better than you do. They know what tone triggers you, what silence unsettles you, what insecurity wakes up instantly when touched. And every time you react automatically, you hand them the steering wheel to your inner world. But when awareness enters the moment, the pattern breaks. Not dramatically. Quietly, someone provokes you. And instead of immediately reacting, you notice the heat rising in your chest. You notice the tightening in your jaw, the sudden urge to defend yourself, the impulse to interrupt, and instead of obeying it blindly, you watch it. That sounds simple. It is not, because observing emotion without becoming emotion requires tremendous internal strength. Most people cannot do it for more than a few seconds. The ego hates observation, because observation exposes how mechanical many reactions truly are. You start realizing, I've had this exact emotional reaction before. This argument feels familiar. I keep defending the same wound in different situations. And suddenly your identity begins cracking open. You realize much of what you called personality was actually conditioning. Patterns repeated so many times they started feeling like you. That realization can feel disorienting, but it's also liberating. Because if reactions were learned, they can be unlearned. This is where emotional maturity begins separating itself from emotional performance. A lot of people look calm externally while chaos is screaming inside them. That's not peace. That's suppression. Real calmness is different. Real calmness happens when your self-worth no longer depends on controlling how others see you. That's why emotionally free people move differently through the world. They listen more, defend less, observe carefully, respond intentionally, not because they are weak, because they are no longer terrified. Fear creates reactivity. When someone fears rejection, they chase validation. When someone fears humiliation, they become defensive. When someone fears abandonment, they cling or attack. But once fear loses its grip, reaction loses its fuel. And this creates a kind of quiet power most people can feel instantly but rarely understand. You've probably met someone like this before. Someone who walks into a tense room and somehow remains grounded while everyone else is emotionally drowning. They don't rush to dominate conversations. They don't need the last word. They don't become emotionally hijacked by every opinion around them. And because of that, people trust them. Calm nervous systems create safety. That's one of the deepest truths in human psychology. People are not only responding to your words, they are responding to your state. your breathing, your tension, your eye movement, your pace, your emotional volatility. Human beings are constantly reading each other beneath language. That means unresolved anger spreads silently. So does peace. And once you understand this, your focus changes completely. You stop asking, how do I stop people from upsetting me? And you begin asking, what inside me is so easily disturbed? That question changes your life. Because now the goal is no longer controlling others. It's understanding yourself deeply enough that external chaos no longer dictates your internal reality. That's real freedom, not the absence of difficult people, not the absence of betrayal or disrespect, but the absence of unconscious slavery to emotional triggers. And strangely enough, when you stop needing to control people emotionally, your relationships begin transforming in ways you never expected. Because for the first time, you're finally seeing people clearly instead of through the lens of your wounds. And what you discover next is something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. At the deepest level, anger is often grief that never found a voice. Not loud grief, quiet grief. The kind that hides itself inside sarcasm, impatience, emotional distance, or the constant need to stay in control. Because long before people become reactive, they usually become hurt. And long before they become hurt, they become disappointed by parents who could not see them, by love that arrived with conditions, by friendships that disappeared the moment vulnerability appeared, by the terrifying realization that being a good person does not guarantee being treated gently by the world. So the nervous system adapts. It says, never again. Never again will you trust too quickly, need too openly, love too honestly, depend too deeply. And without realizing it, many people spend their entire lives building emotional fortresses around wounds nobody else can even see. That fortress becomes identity. Some call it independence. Some call it strength. Some call it not caring anymore. But deep down, most emotional armor is just pain trying to avoid being touched twice. The tragedy is, armor protects you from pain, but it also protects you from connection. You cannot selectively numb yourself. When people shut down anger, they often shut down tenderness too. Curiosity too, wonder too, love too. And eventually they stop feeling disturbed by life, but they also stop feeling fully alive inside it. That's why becoming emotionally free is not about becoming colder. It's about becoming courageous enough to stay open without becoming controlled. That is true power, not domination, not emotional suppression, not pretending nothing affects you. Real power is remaining connected to yourself in moments that would once make you abandon who you are. It's being misunderstood without collapsing, rejected without losing your identity, disrespected without becoming cruel. Because once your worth stops depending on external behavior, something extraordinary happens. People lose the ability to emotionally imprison you, and for the first time you begin seeing humanity with clear eyes. You see that everyone is carrying invisible pain. Everyone is compensating for something. Everyone is fighting private battles they rarely know how to explain. The arrogant carry insecurity. The controlling carry fear. The avoidant carry buried grief. The angry carry helplessness. And suddenly compassion becomes possible. Not weak compassion, clear-eyed compassion. The kind that understands someone's pain without allowing it to destroy your peace. That distinction matters, because emotional mastery does not mean tolerating abuse. It does not mean staying silent when boundaries are violated. It does not mean becoming passive in the face of disrespect. It means your response is no longer poisoned by unconscious emotion. You act from clarity instead of woundedness. That changes everything. A boundary spoken calmly becomes more powerful than rage. Silence becomes more powerful than proving yourself. Walking away becomes more powerful than winning arguments that cost your peace. And over time, something beautiful begins happening inside you. Life slows down, not externally, internally. Moments that once triggered storms now pass like weather across the surface of a deeper ocean. You stop chasing emotional certainty from people who cannot give it. You stop begging to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking yourself to avoid conflict. You stop carrying conversations long after they ended. And in that space, you meet yourself again. Not the defensive version, not the performing version, not the survival version. The real you beneath the conditioning. Calm, aware, present. There's a strange sadness that comes with this transformation, because you begin realizing how much of your life was spent reacting instead of living, How many nights were lost replaying things that no longer mattered? How much energy was sacrificed trying to control perceptions, outcomes, and people? How often anger became a substitute for honesty? But there's freedom in seeing that clearly. Because awareness dissolves illusion. And once illusion dissolves, peace no longer feels impossible. It feels natural. Not permanent, not perfect, but available, always available. Every moment gives you the same quiet choice: react from the wound or respond from awareness. One path deepens suffering, the other deepens consciousness. And eventually you understand something that changes the way you move through the world forever. The people who hurt you the most were never holding your peace hostage. Your unconscious reactions were, and the moment you become aware of them, the prison door quietly opens.